question of if Rubis is exporting this oil, then what stockpiles are they really holding? That if they actually just turn the tap the other way, you set the country in a crisis. Then we should actually look at the quotas that the government is allocating to Rubis at the end of the day. Is it the quotas that should say is morally acceptable at the end of the day? Because if there is, you can actually be given that quota and we've set the country into a crisis, then that should be questionable.
Let me, I must confess I was in petroleum until 2018.
So I was inside.
So I know a bit about what's going on. We are not in a liberalized economy as regards fuel. Fuel is not liberalized in this country as we speak now. The import of fuel is managed by the Ministry of Energy, which determines, based on our consumption pattern, how much fuel we require in a particular month, and conducts the import through an open tender system, which it manages 100%. So the second point is that the pricing of fuel at the pumps is set by the government. So it's not liberalized. Yes. That's one. And we pushed for this about 10 years ago. We insisted that no, fuel prices were becoming unpredictable, and so we wanted it to be, and so we took that option. Now, what is happening today, clearly, it's not the fault of with all due respect, it's not really about the petroleum companies. It's about government. And this I'll explain very simply. You control the price. So you say, I don't want the price to be more. The price is set at 134 shillings for petrol. Now the cost of the fuel itself, it's more. It's about 150 something to 160 almost, because of the international price and because of the many, up to 9 different types of levies and taxes that the government has on petrol. So the cost is actually about 160. So the government tells the petroleum companies, we will pay the balance as a subsidy. That subsidy has not been forthcoming since December. You've seen the government paid last week some 8 billion. I understand yesterday, Treasury agreed to pay again a substantial amount today. And that's where the issue is. So what's happening is, every month, 2 months in advance, the ministry conducts the tenders for the coming months. So then when it's doing this tender now, you indicate based on your allocation, because even the amount you import is allocated to you by the ministry. I cannot wake up and bring a whole ship of fuel in this country. No, it's the ministry that determines how much, based on your market share and based on the storage and pipeline facilities we have and so forth. So you're allocated a certain amount. Now, that amount is based in is broken up into two. One is for local, one is for export. So when the government reneged on paying the subsidies or delayed in paying the subsidies, what petroleum companies have done is they have consigned most of their fuel for export. And this is not something they do after the product comes. It's something they do when they are placing their orders, before the tenders are done. So even as the tenders were being done, and the ministry follows the OTS, the ministry knows that out of 200 million liters of fuel, petrol that is coming, so much is going to export and so much is for local. So it's not something they wake up and realize that somebody has just, And by the way, let me tell you also this, it's very important, Diban. Every liter that a trader owns of fuel, from the time it's discharged at Kipevu, KPC terminal, and all through the pipeline, it's known to the government. Because twice a day, Kenya Pipeline sends advisories to all the traders and everybody in the sector, KRA, Kenya, the Ministry of Energy. So everyone knows twice a day how many liters Rubis has at the depots in Mombasa, at the depots in Nakuru, in Nairobi, Eldoret, and everything. And number two, you cannot get one truck of fuel, even if it's for export, out of a depot without the approval of KRA, whether it's for export or for local, because they have to verify that they have. So everything is at the button. They will stop and say, okay, your truck can't go through their simple system. They can control it. So it's not something that the government does not know what's going on. Government is helpless because they have to pay me my subsidy, because my cost was 100 and I'm a businessman. My cost was 160.
Yes.
You're unable to pay. You told me I'll pay the difference, and you're not able to give me the difference. So why should I absorb your loss for the next 3, 4, 5 months? So what people are saying is then I'll take my product out to another destination where I can get my money. So this has been the issue. So the solution is not really in this. Uganda is not liberalized. That's why their prices in those countries is equivalent of Kenya shillings 160. It's gone above 160 and so forth. But let me tell you, our government is being smart. They're trying to tell you, give me the money, the tax. You put up to 50% of the money on that fuel is tax. They're supposed to give you back the subsidy. They don't want to give back. Like every other refund, even VAT refunds, any money that goes into KRA of the government, to get it back is not that easy. So the best solution for this thing is government simply needs to, instead of struggling to pay because you have debts, once the money goes into treasury, you can't get it back. The best thing is just to remove some of those subsidies, some of those levies and taxes, and it's an easy thing for the government. And not they can't do because they put themselves into a catch-22 because of the IMF conditions. You cannot eliminate some of those things. So I think the only option, like you said, is for them to adjust the prices up. And that they're going to do, maybe 15, maybe 20 shillings or 40, it might, I don't know, but they seem, and the minister alluded to that in Parliament. He said we cannot sustain 10 billion subsidy every month. He said so when he was reading the budget.
It's unsustainable right now because it's a hand-to-mouth economy that we